All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly unprecedented collision. We're talking artificial intelligence, global superpowers, and literally the very code that developers are typing out every single day. We're going to be looking at a fascinating situation that completely blew up in July 2026. A moment where a wildly popular coding tool suddenly found itself at the absolute center of a massive geopolitical storm.
I mean, just think about the sheer weight of this question for a second. For the first time ever, a major American AI coding tool was officially accused of espionage by a global superpower. We are talking about Anthropic's Claude Code, and a stunning accusation coming straight from China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. The claim? That this AI assistant actually contained a security backdoor, one that was actively transmitting sensitive user data to remote American servers.
Section 1. Timeline of a crisis, from reverse engineering to a complete ban. To really grasp how we got to such a massive accusation, we've got to look at the rapid chain of events that led up to it.
And wow, the fallout happened insanely fast. It's kind of wild to think a developer just trying to build a website might be caught in the crossfire of a multinational incident, but that is exactly what happened here. You see, this didn't actually start with China's government. It kicked off in early June when the American company Anthropic publicly accused Chinese tech giant Alibaba of attempting to extract Claude's AI models through reverse engineering. Now, Alibaba stayed pretty quiet publicly, but behind the scenes, their engineers started reverse engineering Claude Code itself. Fast forward just a few weeks to July 7th, and Alibaba abruptly bans Claude Code for all its employees. The very next day, China publishes its official security advisory. I mean, this escalated from an intellectual property dispute into a full-blown national security crisis in literally a matter of weeks.
So, what exactly did Alibaba's engineers find to justify this massive ban? Well, they discovered a series of highly specific, hidden checks running in the background of Claude Code. The software was actively examining system time zone settings, it was hunting for common VPNs and proxy servers used specifically in China. It was even looking for network characteristics tied directly to Chinese AI labs, and when these checks triggered, the software quietly transmitted geographic and identity identifiers right back to Anthropic's servers.
Section 2. Anti-abuse or secret backdoor, the critical matter of intent. Because here is where things get really fascinating. The technical facts of those background checks we just mentioned, they aren't actually disputed by anyone. The fierce debate here is entirely about the intent behind them.
To really understand this debate, we have to define our terms. On one hand, we've got a backdoor, which is a hidden mechanism for unauthorized data extraction. Total spy stuff, right? But on the other hand, we have an anti-abuse mechanism, a system meant to stop software misuse, like, say, enforcing sanctions. In this specific case, the exact same piece of code could be defined as either of these, depending entirely on what you believe the developer was actually trying to achieve.
Now, Anthropic was very quick to defend their intent. In an official statement, they argued that Claude isn't even permitted in China in the first place. They explained that the hidden checks found in versions 2.1.91 through 2.1.196 weren't spyware at all. Instead, they said it was an experimental compliance tool designed strictly to adhere to U.S. export laws by identifying and blocking unauthorized access through VPNs. They maintained absolutely that it was never meant to be a permanent surveillance tool.
But the industry? The industry remains totally divided into two distinct camps. On one side, independent cybersecurity experts argue this is a highly valid, very real security concern. They say, regardless of intent, sending user information without explicit consent is a massive breach of trust, and it potentially violates strict privacy laws, like the EU's GDPR. But then, on the flip side, geopolitical analysts argue this is just classic tech Cold War retaliation. The timing, happening exactly 1 month after Anthropic accused Alibaba of IP theft, is highly suspicious. It perfectly serves a strategic narrative to push out Western tech.
Which brings us to Section 3, the geopolitical tech war and the rise of domestic alternatives. This strategic push is part of a much broader context. This isn't just about one coding tool. It's a critical piece of a massive strategy known as Operation Tech Independence.
This ban created an immediate new market reality. Look at it this way. By banning the American-made Claude Code, which, by the way, costs $20 a month and is illegal to use in China anyway, Alibaba instantly created a massive vacuum. And what fills it? Their own domestic, fully legal alternative, Quadr. It perfectly aligns with Beijing's tech nationalism agenda. Basically, they turned a security advisory into an incredible market opportunity for domestic AI. All right,
Section 4, the global trust crisis and the fallout for developers. Stepping away from all the geopolitical maneuvering for a second, we really have to look at the immediate fallout for the developers on the ground. Because regardless of why this all happened, this secret data collection has caused some very real damage.
Just take a look at this. In an informal poll of developers following the incident, a staggering 68% said they would either stop using Claude Code entirely or, at the very least, carefully review it before continuing. Only 32% felt unaffected. You know, in the software world, trust is quite literally your most valuable currency. When companies use opaque, silent data collection, even if it is genuinely just for legal compliance, they pay a massive, massive price in user loyalty.
Section 5, Future AI Security Lessons, Navigating a Fractured Tech World. This huge loss of trust really forces us to look forward. So what lessons can we actually draw from this incident as we navigate an increasingly complicated software landscape?
Well, what we are seeing here is basically a microexample of a massive macro trend. Researchers are actually predicting that by 2030, the global tech ecosystem is going to fracture into 3 distinct blocks. You've got the American block, which will push rapid innovation but constantly bump into strict privacy regulations like GDPR. Then the Chinese block will double down on state-controlled domestic self-sufficiency. And crucially, we're going to see the rise of an open-source block, driven by developing nations like India and Brazil, who simply want to avoid depending on either of the major superpowers.
So, what does this all mean for you, the developer? How do you actually protect your work in such a fractured world? Well, here is a practical defense strategy. First, start monitoring your outbound network traffic using tools like Wireshark. Second, isolate your AI tools in virtual environments so they just can't access your whole system. Third, and I know it's tedious, actually read those terms of service to see exactly what's being collected. Fourth, try to default to open source tools for your most sensitive projects. And finally, always review changelogs and keep your software updated to patch out vulnerabilities or, controversial compliance tools.
Which really leaves us with this final lingering thought. As we've seen throughout this explainer, the line between enforcing export laws and violating user privacy is just incredibly thin. When an AI tool operates globally but is bound by one specific nation's laws, whose rules actually win? It really begs the question, can true digital privacy even exist in a multipolar world where national security and technology are now inextricably linked? It's a massive challenge, and for sure, it's one that every developer and tech company is going to have to face head-on in the years to come.